Hey guys and girls, and welcome to another gameplay commentary with me, Alan. Today I have some more Hotwire gameplay for you on the map Dustbowl. And this game is a little bit special because I managed to go through it completely without dying once. And what's more impressive is that I managed to do it while being the pilot of this particular helicopter. So I spend the entire game piloting this helicopter and I do not get shot down. I don't get killed in any way whatsoever. So I get a nice little roadkill there. The game classifies it as a roadkill even though it's a helicopter, but whatever. So the enemy has just parachuted straight into my rotors and been chopped into sushi. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not really sure what to talk about in this game, to be honest. I've already discussed my views on being a pilot in a previous video, so I don't really want to do that again. Just want to say now, get it out of the way, some of my piloting in this might seem a bit noobish. You know, I'm bouncing up and down off the ground, I'm pulling off these, quite frankly, silly maneuvers, but it's all done on purpose. This is one of the later games in the beta, near the end of the beta as it happens. So I'm quite comfortable with the flying aspect, and any of these crashes that you'll see, not crashes, but like you'll see me try and do silly stuff like land on enemy players and stuff. That's all intentional. I'm not messing up. I'm not messing up, you know, because I'm losing control of the vehicle. I'm doing that on purpose. So just to get that out of the way, yeah, I can handle the helicopter, but I'm doing this stuff because, well, just cause really, you know, to help my, well, mostly to help my gunners try and get kills, but also just to, like I said, try and get funny road kills with the helicopter. Anyway, so yeah, I've already talked about being a pilot. So what I'm going to do today is something a little bit different. I'm not going to talk about the gameplay of the Battlefield Hardline beta at all. I'm going to talk about something completely, I wouldn't say unrelated because it is about Battlefield Hardline, but it's not about the gameplay that you'll be watching or about any of the other multiplayer that I've shown or will show. I am going to talk about today the subject of campaigns and multiplayer in general, but using Battlefield Hardline as an example, if you will. So there's the argument that a typical player might spend a lot more time on the multiplayer aspect of a game than the single player side of things, which, you know, okay, it makes sense because you can only play non-RPG games for a set amount of time. Typical campaign length is what, 8 hours give or take, depending on difficulty and how proficient you are at playing. You know, some games are a little bit longer, some games are a little bit shorter. I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. It costs a lot of money to put a campaign together, you know, and to make one that's good. And it costs these days almost as much to create a really big, varied multiplayer. But the difference is the campaign, I think, well, campaign side of things takes a lot longer. And so there's the argument of whether games such as Battlefield and to a lesser extent Call of Duty, whether the time and the money should just be spent on the multiplayer and, you know, maybe even forgo the single player altogether, because some players do completely bypass the single player and go straight to multiplayer, and some of them don't even play the single player at all, ever, which I think for some games is a real shame, but that's just the way things are these days. I personally enjoy a good single player campaign. You know, I always complete it before jumping into the multiplayer side of any game. Mainly because I'm one of those players who likes to ease into a new thing. So I would, I'd learn the controls in a single player environment. I would practice my, skills and abilities or whatever, and then I would, jump online and not get absolutely trashed. But I know some players don't do that. Some players just go straight to the multiplayer because maybe they've had experience already and they don't feel they need to practice in single player, or maybe they just don't play single player at all, like I said before. But to me, a game, I would decide to buy a game primarily on the single player side of things. If I feel a single player is good and I want to try it out, then that is what I would buy. Even if a game has a multiplayer that I might enjoy anyway, like for example Call of Duty, not the latest two Call of Duty titles, but before that I would have possibly been persuaded to buy a Call of Duty title just because of playing the multiplayer. But you have to think that before multiplayers became as popular as they are now, with like Call of Duty, Battlefield, maybe, okay, I wouldn't say they were never popular before, but they're a lot more popular now than they were, back in the day. And, but these multiplayers came tacked onto the side of a good single player campaign. Modern Warfare is a perfect example of this. How many people playing Call of Duty now, or FPSs in general, how many of those would be playing more FPS titles now than if they hadn't got stuck into the campaign of Modern Warfare in the first place? I for one, that was my first Call of Duty title, and I really liked the campaign, and so I decided to give the multiplayer a go. I can't remember exactly what my thoughts were at the time, but I had played other multiplayer titles before. I played a bit of Counter-Strike and Unreal Tournament, but Call of Duty was the first modern shooter, and it got me hooked. After that I played all the other Call of Duties, and I even played a couple of Battlefield titles. But that all started from me playing that campaign, and I appreciate a good story. I appreciate a good single player. I expect that when I buy a game that advertises a single player, for it to be a good single player. And I don't want to say I disapprove of players who don't play the campaign and request that developers spend more time and money on the multiplayer. Yeah, it's great that the developers are creating bigger, more complex multiplayer modes for us to enjoy, but I just feel that single player should always be the centerpiece of any title released. Yeah, okay, we're going to spend maybe 10 times more hours playing multiplayer than we would single player, but the single player is what makes a good game, and is what is going to create lasting memories. And so that's just my view. You might feel differently. Let me know in the comment section how you feel, or if you agree, disagree. But yeah, so how is this related to Battlefield Hardline? Well, I'm really hoping that the campaign for this game is good. It seems interesting, this whole cops and robbers thing. Okay, it's not the most original concept ever, but it hasn't really been covered before. Most Call of Duties cover wars of some sort, and previous Battlefields is likewise the same. And the reason why I'm using Battlefield Hardline as a good example is because I played Battlefield 3's campaign and it was so boring, to the point where I didn't even buy Battlefield 4, even though I was interested in it, just because I heard mediocre things about the campaign, and I just wasn't prepared to risk it, because Battlefield 3's campaign was just not fun. And it was short as well, which in some ways was a blessing, because I don't know if I would have finished it otherwise. But yeah, so I really do hope, and I want good campaigns, and I hope Battlefield Hardline campaign is good, because if it is, then it's an instant buy for me. But if not, then I will probably put it off until it drops in price, just so that I can play a bit of the multiplayer. But that's just me. I expect and I want a good single player campaign, and without it, then I have less inclination to buy a title. You know, games like Uncharted is another good example. I think Uncharted 1 had, you know, it was an okay story, but it was a refreshing one, which is why it was good. And then Uncharted 2, I mean, I wasn't expecting there to be a multiplayer, but you know, I enjoyed Uncharted 1, so then therefore I bought Uncharted 2, and I really enjoyed Uncharted 2. But then they had this multiplayer, and you know, while it wasn't at the time I was playing things like Modern Warfare 2, I wasn't really expecting much from the multiplayer. But you know, I tried it and I had a bit of fun in the competitive side of things. But then I tried the co-op side of things, and I absolutely loved that. It was just so much fun, and I spent so much time playing that. And so in Uncharted 3, I expected a good campaign and a good multiplayer, but I noticed a drop in, I don't want to say quality, because the game was still pretty good, but it wasn't quite as good as Uncharted 2. And I'm just wondering whether that's because they had to stretch the manpower in order to create so much more content for the game. And so, you know, obviously, I don't know if you've heard, but Uncharted 4 has been delayed until 2016 now. So I'm hoping that means they're going to spend a little bit more time polishing it. But anyway, that's maybe a topic for another video. And as you can see, I have completed the match with 1 kill, 0 deaths. So a flawless pilot performance from me. Anyway, hope you enjoy watching the video. And if you liked it, please leave a like. And if you have any comments you want to share with me, then type away in the box below. And until next time, take care.